So David is currently awaiting his next legal proceeding, and online conversation around the situation has not slowed down at all. A lot of people have been watching closely to see what happens next, and now attention is turning toward what information could potentially become relevant during official proceedings. In this situation, multiple posts have been circulating online discussing what people believe could become a major focus in the broader case involving David. At the same time, others have been debating what possible responses or counterpoints could emerge if certain claims are challenged during the process. There have also been newer details appearing online, though it remains unclear what information could actually become part of any formal proceedings. Still, discussion across social platforms has been moving quickly, and people have been analyzing every development. One post shared online included a summary of what some people think may receive attention during the case. According to the post, there were claims involving images and reported communications connected to interactions between individuals during an earlier time period. People reacting online have argued that if information supporting those claims becomes relevant during proceedings, it could become a major part of the situation. At the same time, others continue emphasizing that legal standards matter, official procedures matter, and every person has the right to a fair process before conclusions are reached. The same online recap also mentioned reported messages said to involve discussions connected to personal matters and private life events. For many people following developments, discussion around those reported details has already created strong reactions online, and according to people closely watching events unfold, some believe attention around the case could continue increasing as additional claims and reported information receive public attention. Discussion around the situation became even louder after people started focusing on reported phone activity, transportation information, and digital records that could potentially become discussion points during proceedings. According to posts circulating online, some people believe investigators may examine information connected to device activity and transportation records tied to a specific period in April 2025. The discussion centers around reported location history and communications connected to travel activity following a reported visit to David's residence. One major debate online has been whether investigators can connect specific movements to the reported timeline. Some people argued stronger verification would still be needed, while others pointed toward reported device information and communication records that could potentially help establish a sequence of events if introduced during official proceedings.
Another detail getting heavy attention online involves reported digital communications. People discussing the situation have questioned whether electronic records could become a major factor if officials argue they differ from other information connected to the timeline. There has also been discussion surrounding reported vehicle-related information connected to July 2025. Online conversations increased after claims surfaced that movement records could potentially help establish details connected to the broader timeline being discussed. At the same time, social media users have continued debating statements made by different people connected to public discussion surrounding the matter. Some believe officials may have one interpretation of events, while others believe alternative explanations could challenge parts of that timeline. Another point getting major attention online involves reported physical evidence connected to materials collected during the investigation. People closely following developments have pointed toward reports claiming investigators linked certain findings to an individual connected to the case. If information connected to those claims becomes part of proceedings, many online believe it could become a major focus. People have also been discussing reported purchase history that investigators may reference, including deliveries connected to items obtained after April 24, 2025. Online speculation is centered around reports mentioning various household and utility-related items that investigators reportedly reviewed as part of the broader timeline. Additional conversation is focused on reported delivery information and transportation-related activity. Some online discussions have pointed toward claims involving purchase records and transportation history connected to travel between locations during April 2025. With official proceedings still ahead, people following the situation continue watching closely to see which discussions, records, and reported information ultimately become relevant moving forward. People following the situation online also focused on another recurring detail tied to transportation activity. One point receiving major attention involved claims connected to how travel arrangements were handled. That detail sparked widespread discussion online, with people debating how heavily records like that could matter if formally introduced during proceedings. Another piece people have been discussing involves David's professional background before April 23, 2025. Reports connected to the broader situation mentioned his work and career accomplishments. Some online have speculated that professional and financial information could potentially become relevant depending on how different sides approach their arguments. There has also been discussion surrounding a reported public event on April 24, 2025, along with future professional plans later that year. On top of that, people online have been closely watching reported communications said to have taken place during April 22nd and April 23rd. According to claims circulating online, messages allegedly included disagreements and statements involving concerns about information that could negatively affect reputations or careers. That combination of reported digital records, transportation activity, phone information, and communication history has led to non-stop discussion online. Some people believe officials may have developed a strong timeline based on available information and technology-related records. Others argue official proceedings still matter, information should be reviewed carefully, and formal processes remain the place where details ultimately get examined. Discussion online has become especially active because many people following the story continue pointing back to the same collection of claims being discussed publicly. That includes reported location information, transportation activity, communication history, and reported details that could potentially become relevant as the situation develops.
At the same time, others online continue pushing back against strong conclusions before official proceedings move further forward. People who closely follow legal matters often point out that public discussion and official outcomes do not always align. Another conversation spreading online focused on reported delivery information tied to items being reviewed as part of the broader situation. One comment that gained attention joked about how unusual certain deliveries might appear from an outside perspective, and people across social media quickly joined the discussion. As more details continue getting analyzed online, people following developments are watching closely to see which information ultimately becomes relevant and what perspectives different sides may bring forward reactions. Reactions online have continued growing stronger over time, and comment sections have turned into non-stop debates. Some people following developments have been sharing strong opinions about reported information, timelines, and what they believe could happen as the situation continues moving forward. One discussion picking up attention centered around rumors involving deliveries connected to the broader situation. Social media users began sharing theories and observations while reacting to claims connected to records reportedly being reviewed. Even conversations that started casually became more serious because people have been closely analyzing every detail connected to the story. Another major topic online has been possible explanations and competing interpretations surrounding different parts of the timeline. Some people believe certain viewpoints could face challenges if they differ from information introduced later. Others continue saying the official process still needs to play out fully before final conclusions are reached. There has also been heavy discussion surrounding David's legal response to the situation. Across social media, people have been debating what reasoning could be behind different decisions being made. Some believe it may relate to legal strategy. Others think it could simply reflect how major public cases often move through formal systems.
People online have also questioned why situations like this sometimes move slowly and why official processes can stretch out over long periods. Reactions have ranged from frustration to confusion, especially from people closely following developments day by day. At the same time, many social media users continue focusing on the broader collection of reported information that has been discussed publicly. Some people believe officials may already have enough information without relying on every rumor or online theory circulating around the situation. There has also been discussion about whether additional materials beyond what has already been publicly mentioned could eventually become relevant. People following developments have brought up things like recordings, official materials, and other information sources while debating what could potentially become part of future discussions. One thing that stands out across online conversation is how divided people remain about what happens next. Some believe publicly discussed information already points strongly in one direction. Others continue emphasizing that official processes, careful review, and established standards will ultimately determine where things go from here. Conversations around this situation continue growing, and people following developments closely have been paying attention to details they believe could become important as events move forward. One topic that keeps coming up involves reported device information. Across social media, people have been questioning whether digital records connected to accounts or online storage could potentially help clarify timelines or confirm reported communications. Some online discussions have also focused on reported messages involving private personal matters. People following developments have been debating why those conversations were mentioned in publicly discussed materials. One side of the discussion argues those details may have been included to provide context surrounding the broader situation being examined. Others believe there are still unanswered questions surrounding that part of the story. There has also been discussion surrounding reported findings and what officials may or may not have been able to determine. People online have pointed toward conflicting information that has circulated publicly over time, which has only added more uncertainty and speculation surrounding certain claims. At the same time, many people discussing the situation believe officials could already have multiple areas of information they may focus on without needing every disputed point to carry equal importance. Digital information, communication history, timeline-related details, and other reported materials continue receiving significant attention online. Another conversation gaining traction involves whether additional technical methods may have been used, including data analysis tools or account-related information connected to online services. Social media users have been sharing theories about what could potentially exist behind the scenes, while others argue officials may only focus on information they believe matters most moving forward. People closely following developments also continue debating which details could eventually become relevant during official processes versus which conversations mainly remain online. That distinction has become a major talking point as public discussion continues moving quickly. Another issue creating reactions online involves questions surrounding images and materials that have been referenced publicly in connection with the broader situation. Some people express concern after seeing conversations about reported information and what details could potentially become relevant later. At this stage, online discussion remains packed with theories, reactions, and people trying to piece together how everything fits together. But as developments continue unfolding, many following the situation are waiting to see which details become formally relevant versus what remains part of internet speculation. A major topic getting attention online involves how sensitive information could potentially be handled if it becomes part of official proceedings. People following developments have been discussing reports connected to materials that may have been reviewed, and a lot of conversation has centered around how information like that would potentially be presented if it becomes important later.
Some people online have pointed out that in situations involving highly sensitive information, officials sometimes rely on specialists who review materials and explain their findings rather than presenting every detail directly. People familiar with formal processes have noted that trained professionals are sometimes asked to provide context and explain technical topics in ways that are easier to understand. Across social media, people have been debating how that process could potentially unfold here. Some believe specialists could summarize findings if information becomes relevant moving forward. Others have been discussing what role professional analysis might have if certain materials are considered important. Discussion around possible approaches has not stopped there. Online communities following the story have also been sharing theories about what different perspectives or interpretations could emerge as developments continue. One topic picking up attention involves speculation surrounding people connected to the broader situation and whether anyone may have shared information behind the scenes. Some online discussions have focused on messages, public comments, and statements that followers believe could potentially become relevant later. One theory circulating online centers around claims that someone close to the situation may have provided information connected to the broader discussion. People following developments have pointed toward public comments and statements while debating what those remarks could potentially mean if they become relevant later. Others following developments have continued expanding on those ideas, questioning whether information sharing or communication between different parties could explain certain public statements connected to the situation. At this stage, though, those conversations remain part of online discussion rather than confirmed developments.
Social media users have also been analyzing reported online activity, older communications, and interaction patterns while trying to understand what details could potentially become important later. Some people believe certain comments or digital activity stand out more now because of everything happening around the broader situation. As more details continue getting discussed online, people following developments remain heavily focused on which information eventually becomes formally relevant versus what remains part of internet discussion and public theories. Conversations surrounding this situation continue becoming more active, and one topic people have been debating heavily involves reported actions connected to official processes and procedural matters. Some people following developments pointed to reports that someone connected to the broader situation may have missed an expected obligation before later being located elsewhere. That detail quickly sparked reactions online, with some social media users questioning whether it means anything important, while others argued people should avoid drawing conclusions without knowing the full context. Another discussion gaining attention centers around possible approaches and what different sides may potentially focus on as developments continue moving forward. People online have pointed out that different perspectives do not necessarily require completely opposing explanations. Some people who closely follow major public situations have noted that reviewing information carefully or raising questions around certain details can become an important part of formal processes. Across social media, people have also been debating what types of information could ultimately matter most. Some users believe technical findings could become a major focus. Others have been discussing how first-hand accounts, digital information, communication history, and timeline-related details could all potentially influence future discussions. One conversation gaining traction online involves comparisons to older public situations where different approaches became major discussion points. Some people have been speculating whether unexpected perspectives or broader contextual factors could become part of the conversation moving forward. At the same time, many people online continue questioning what alternative interpretations, if any, could potentially emerge as developments continue. Social media discussions have included theories, differing viewpoints, and nonstop debate about how different perspectives may address information already being discussed publicly. There has also been discussion surrounding people connected to David and whether broader connections, communications, or timeline-related information could receive additional attention later. People following developments have been closely reviewing publicly discussed information while trying to anticipate what direction things may take moving forward.
Hard though, homie.
Man, two people back to back to back.
That's album credits. Go ahead, my brother.
That is that not 3? All right, DD.
I thought the song was very well put together. I listen to songs like this here and there so I can understand the vibe and everything. The concept was great.
Another discussion making rounds online involved comparisons to public situations from the past that sparked major reactions years ago. Some people following developments questioned whether broader explanations or larger context could potentially become part of future discussions. Others quickly pushed back on those ideas, arguing that established processes and careful review remain what matter most moving forward. As public attention continues growing, people following the story remain focused on seeing what information ultimately becomes formally relevant, because online theories have been moving quickly while official outcomes follow more structured processes.
Some people following developments online have also been debating what different perspectives or explanations could potentially emerge later, especially when it comes to reported information, how conclusions are reached, and publicly discussed findings. A major discussion happening across social media involves whether different sides may examine how information was gathered, how conclusions were developed, and whether established procedures were followed appropriately. People who closely follow major public situations have pointed out that reviewing process and methodology often becomes part of larger discussions. Another topic receiving attention involves discussions surrounding reported findings connected to the broader situation. Online conversations have included theories that different interpretations or unanswered questions could become part of future discussions. People who closely follow public matters have pointed out that differing viewpoints and competing interpretations happen regularly whenever situations receive widespread attention. Some people online have also been discussing earlier reports connected to how developments unfolded during earlier stages. That conversation expanded into broader discussions surrounding timing, process, and how major public situations evolve over time. At the same time, online communities following developments have continued revisiting older public content connected to David. One clip receiving attention reportedly involved comments from around a year earlier where David spoke about personal experiences and difficult situations. That clip quickly became another source of online discussion. Some people questioned whether the comment carried any larger meaning at all. Others wondered whether people might be reading too much into an older conversation. As usual, social media moved quickly and speculation spread even faster. People online also started revisiting older discussions and live stream moments while trying to better understand timelines and connections. Some viewers questioned whether certain comments or interactions stand out differently now compared to when they originally happened. Another conversation picking up attention involved appearances and interactions connected to older online content and public material. Social media users began revisiting clips, reacting to collaborations, and debating whether past content carries a different perspective now compared to when people first saw it.
As older material continues resurfacing, people following developments have continued sorting through what could matter, what might not matter, and what remains part of internet discussion versus information that may ultimately become more relevant moving forward. That clip quickly generated conversation online, and people following developments immediately started reviewing details more closely. Reactions moved quickly after older content and discussions connected to David began resurfacing and receiving renewed attention. One moment receiving attention involved a discussion where David spoke about difficult personal experiences involving relationships. That comment turned into a larger discussion online, with people trying to compare timelines, earlier statements, and reported personal circumstances that some believe overlap with topics already being discussed publicly. Some people following developments do not think the comment means much at all. Others believe it could connect to broader discussions surrounding personal situations during late 2024. Online communities have been revisiting older clips and public content while trying to determine whether certain comments stand out differently now compared to when they were originally made. Another theory circulating online involves speculation surrounding personal connections during that period of time. People discussing timelines have been comparing older livestream appearances, reported dates, and public interactions while building their own interpretations of events. Some social media users pointed toward late 2024 specifically, arguing timing could matter based on previously discussed personal circumstances connected to the broader situation. Others pushed back strongly, saying people online can sometimes place too much meaning on older comments that may not have carried deeper significance at the time. There has also been discussion involving another person whose identity people online continue speculating about. Some users believe there could be information that has not become public. Others argue internet communities often create theories before details become fully understood. One comment receiving attention online suggested that certain public statements may not always fully reflect reality and could sometimes be influenced by presentation choices or public image considerations. Social media users have continued debating whether public image, creative work, online content, and private experiences always align, especially when someone becomes the focus of widespread public attention. People have also been revisiting reported audio clips and creative references, while questioning whether older material stands out differently now. That has led to another wave of online discussion, with users comparing content, public statements, live streams, and reported communications while trying to better understand connections and timelines. Another topic picking up attention involves images people online have been discussing connected to an area near David's property. Some social media users believe certain visible details in publicly discussed material could be meaningful. Others strongly disagree and argue internet discussion should not be treated the same as verified information. At the same time, people following developments have continued pointing toward publicly discussed reports involving reviewed materials connected to locations receiving attention. Those conversations have created nonstop discussion online, especially as people compare rumors, reported details, and information they believe may become clearer over time.
Right now, social media remains packed with theories, timeline discussions, and people trying to piece together how events connect. But as attention continues growing around the situation, many people following developments closely are waiting to see what eventually becomes more clearly established versus what remains part of online discussion. Online conversation around this topic continued moving quickly after people started revisiting older photos and publicly available images connected to locations receiving public attention. One topic receiving attention involved people closely reviewing photos that had circulated publicly. Some social media users claimed they noticed visible markings near an outdoor area and immediately started debating what they might represent. People online began sharing theories about how different materials and surface conditions can appear over time. Some users argued certain patterns looked familiar to them, while others pushed back and said images alone are not enough to form conclusions. That debate quickly split people into different viewpoints. Some comments dismissed the theory entirely, arguing people sometimes overanalyze publicly available material. Others argued online communities occasionally notice details that later become more relevant than initially expected. Another point people brought up online was that visible marks or surface changes do not automatically point toward one explanation. Social media users debated everything from natural wear to environmental conditions, while discussing whether people online may have been reading too much into images without complete context. Even with disagreement, people closely following developments kept pointing back toward broader discussions already circulating publicly. For many online, it became less about one image alone and more about how different discussions, reports, and publicly debated details potentially fit together. There has also been discussion surrounding reported purchases that have received public attention as part of the broader situation. Social media users continue debating reports connected to items discussed alongside the timeline people have been reviewing. A major talking point online centered around why people connected to major public situations sometimes make decisions that appear confusing from an outside perspective. That conversation led some users to compare the situation to unrelated public stories from past headlines.
One example people pointed toward involved another widely discussed public situation that received major media attention. Reports connected to that unrelated situation included discussions surrounding online activity, purchasing records, and timeline-related information that later received public attention. People discussing David's situation online brought up that example while debating a broader point, which is that people connected to major public situations do not always behave in ways that seem predictable or easy to understand from the outside. As social media continues reviewing details, timelines, and publicly discussed information, people following developments remain focused on separating confirmed information from internet discussion while waiting to see what details ultimately become more relevant over time. Another topic receiving attention online involved comparisons people have been making between this situation and other public stories that recently received widespread attention. Social media discussion increased after people began reviewing reported purchasing activity, financial information, and timeline-related details that sometimes appear across different situations receiving public focus. One example people pointed toward involved reports from another unrelated public situation where purchasing information and delivery activity became part of broader discussions. Online users quickly started debating similarities they believe can appear when digital activity, online transactions, and account information become important topics of discussion. Some social media users argued that technology, shopping history, delivery activity, and online behavior now play much larger roles in understanding modern situations than many people realize. Others pointed out that people today generate far more digital information than in previous decades. Another conversation spreading online centered around whether certain behavior patterns appear repeatedly across different situations receiving major public attention. People debated everything from internet habits to media use to personal routines, while others pushed back and argued there is no single explanation that applies across completely different circumstances. That debate quickly expanded into broader discussions involving environment, life experiences, community influences, and access to technology. Some people argued modern online culture has changed behavior significantly over time. Others pointed toward broader social conditions when discussing larger patterns and trends. Social media users also debated education experiences and family influences after comparisons between different communities started circulating online. Some people argued one perspective, others strongly disagreed and said larger social discussions cannot be reduced to one factor alone. Another topic people continued bringing up involved digital activity and online records becoming increasingly important parts of modern life. Social media comments joked about how difficult it can be to avoid creating digital records today, especially when purchases, accounts, deliveries, and devices can contribute to detailed activity histories over time.
One discussion that gained attention involved how people connected to major public situations sometimes appear highly confident in their decisions, even when records and publicly discussed information later receive increased attention. People following David's situation also continue debating broader questions around public image, reputation, and how well-known figures are viewed once major public attention builds around them. Social media reactions remain divided, with some discussing responsibility, while others focused on how public narratives can shift dramatically as more information becomes available. As online conversations continue growing, people following developments remain focused on what information ultimately becomes formally relevant versus what remains part of internet discussion spaces where theories, comparisons, and speculation continue moving quickly. After all the timeline discussions, reported records, online theories, and non-stop social media debate, one thing keeps coming up repeatedly. People following developments believe there could still be major moments ahead. Across social media, many people have been questioning how different perspectives may address everything publicly discussed so far. Some think there could be major challenges depending on what information ultimately becomes relevant later. Others continue pointing out that official outcomes follow established processes and are not shaped by internet reactions alone.
Another major question people keep asking is how long developments could continue and whether major updates could happen before things reach later stages. Online discussion has expanded with theories about different approaches, possible developments, and what direction future discussions could take. Some people believe there could be unexpected developments, others think major moments may still be ahead. But one thing is clear, people following the story are watching closely and waiting to see how everything unfolds over time. There has been non-stop discussion surrounding digital information, reported communications, timeline questions, publicly discussed findings, and records connected to the broader situation. Social media has been moving quickly while people try to understand what matters most, and which details could become more important as developments continue. As more updates happen, there will likely be additional discussion, more analysis, and more details people online will continue following closely. If you made it this far, drop a comment below, still following along. I want to see who has been keeping up from start to finish. And if you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video, and turn notifications on so you do not miss future updates and coverage as more information becomes available. There is still a lot people are following closely, and the conversation continues evolving. Catch you in the next one.